Welcome back to the X Lounge. So we have the fender holes covered. I didn't realize just how close they got to the bottom of the window. So I actually had to modify them a little bit. I thought I was going to put the rear, I don't know what you would call that, the rear dashboard in place, but there's not going to be any room for it. So there was some gap there on either side, and I filled that in. That's some half round that I just glued down and then molded it down as I went. So you'll also notice there's a pin here in the front. That is to locate where the frame is going to be in the end product. And the reason I need that there now is I'm going to start working on where this differential sets in the final product. So I shortened up the differential, added a piece of evergreen 100,000ths. I had to drill out the center of the differential to fit that in there, and that's what size I needed to fit these rims, which are from a drag racing kit. I think I'm going to use the engine from the same kit too. It's pretty monstrous. Okay, so with that in place, I can move these down to about where I want them, and that'll help me to set up where I don't know what this apparatus is called, but that'll help me to set up where that comes into play at. Plus I've got to shape it a bit differently to fit a smaller differential now. I don't know how I'm going to do that yet. Cross that bridge when I get there. That's a future me problem. So at the moment, this fits on here somehow. The instructions call it a rear oil pump. And that goes in between the drive shaft and the axle housing. Like that. Yeah, but I don't know what this connects to underneath. Faces backwards. Let me look in the instructions here a bit. It never mentions it again. It looks like something should attach to it, but nothing does. Ooh, I got that upside down. Yeah, that goes on there like that, and that doesn't touch anything. Really? There's a notch there. Should that go sideways? This is the weirdest thing. I don't know what it does. Huh. Well, I'll research it later. Whenever I cut off one of these, I don't cut I don't cut way down here from the get-go when it's like this. I kind of nibble my way towards it. The less you cut off, the less of it gets squished together. I call it rotten plastic. If you look at this, let's just see how close we can get. Okay, yeah, I can see that. So if we look at this, right there, see in there how that's all crunchy and it's kind of it's concave, because when those cutters squished that plastic, it ruined a portion of it in between, crystallized it under the pressure, and whenever it was released, of course, all that broke away because it's brittle. I call that rotten plastic, and if you were to end up with that on the part itself, then you'd have to fill it with something and sand over it. But if you cut it from a distance and just kind of nibble away at it, when you finally get down to making your cut, there's no rottenness to it. Okay, so this doesn't fit in there well at all. The diameter, none of it's right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill a hole into that. But I'm going to drill it. Am I going to drill it the size of this? Might as well. And then I'm going to stick a piece of wire in there. And I'm going to use the wire for I've got to have something to hang on to so that I can lower this down to the right height and then kind of lock it into place so I can figure out how long I need shocks to be, or springs, or whatever I happen to put underneath of there. I guess technically this frame here should extend and go down too. I might do that. I could be talked into it. But I got to get this into position first. So the first thing I'll do is I'm going to cut a hole that this will fit into. Then I'll stick a wire in there, and that'll be what I hang on to. But I've already talked about that, so some of that I can edit out. There's just the tiniest little post. I'm wondering if I should make that bigger. I should. I'm just going to make this bigger. I'm going to cut that off. I'm going to drill down through that. Probably the same size as that already is. So, in order to get that facilitated, I'll use this pin. See how pointy it is? And I'll make myself a reference mark as to where I'm going to drill into this, kind of a locator, something for the drill bit to catch on to. Then I'll drill a pilot hole of a smaller diameter, doesn't matter what. So if you do this, and whenever you put your locator divot on there, if you take a gander at that later and it looks off-centered, just sand off a portion until the divot goes away and line it up and make a new one. it's not going to go too deep. And then once you're satisfied that it's in the center, you can make yourself a pilot hole such as this one. And then we're going to make a hole the diameter of whatever that is. I'll take it.